What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of What's the Word, your home for all things sports. I'm your host, Sam Casillas, guys, and it has been way too long. I'm so excited to be back with you guys. We are finally done with school for now, so super excited to get back to posting on a little bit of a more consistent schedule and bring you guys back in on the action. But guys, super excited to get back and talk some ball with you, so without further ado, let's do a little bit of that, guys. New York, a city of champions for the first time in 53 years, man. This was an unbelievable run for the New York Knicks, losing just 3 games the entire playoffs on the road to their historic championship. And guys, right away, obviously, Jalen Brunson, he was the guy. He was the main guy who took New York there. But I really want to give Karl Anthony Towns his flowers. He was phenomenal. Regardless of what his stats showed in the closeout game throughout the series, Karl Anthony Towns was the guy for them that entire series. And he really rose to the occasion. I mean, the way he matched up against Wemby was, really unlike any other player that Wemby had faced in the entire playoffs. You look at Chet. Chet was not giving Wemby that physicality that Cat was. You look at Gobert. Gobert was not giving him that work at all. It was a little bit of a wake-up moment for Wemby. And, when you look at a skilled big like Cat is one of the best bigs in the league. He has been pretty much ever since he came in. And, him switching teams doesn't change that. Going from Minnesota to New York, that didn't change one bit. Cat is such a skilled big. He can space the floor. He can shoot the ball well. He can pass. So the way he was working Wemby, using his size, posting him up, going out, shooting threes, shooting mid-ranges, dishing out of the post, that was just giving Wemby headaches. And don't get me wrong, Wemby was still getting his. He was still showing up all over the stat sheet, but you look at the way Karl Anthony Towns just played against him, it was completely different than the other bigs that Wemby faced. I think it was sort of a wake-up for Wemby, showing that, okay, this is the big leagues right here. This is what one of the most skilled bigs in the league can do. And, he played against some other skilled bigs throughout his playoff run. That's no knock to Chet, no knock to Gobert. But Cat, he's in a league of his own, so I think that was a real strong wake-up call for Wemby, and just hats off to Cat. The way he played tremendously throughout the series, and, he was a big if they don't have Cat, they don't win that series. Brunson did his thing, but you look at all the comebacks, Cat was right there sparking things defensively, offensively. He was just as important on that run as Brunson. And then you look at where it all went wrong for the Spurs. Gosh, I just hate to say this, and in no way is this a knock to the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks grinded, they came from behind, everything, but you look at that series, you really go back and watch every single game. The Spurs had a double-digit lead, before half going into every game, and you just look back, and, they should win these games, but you look back and that inexperience, that young roster, just not being able to hold the lead, guys. They've never been there before. They've never played in the finals. Most of the guys on that roster, this was their first time getting any sort of NBA Finals action. So we got to cut them a little slack. But you look back at that inexperience, it showed up in ways that just wasn't age. Not just because they were young. They were going down. You look at them down the stretch. You look at them holding the lead, their inability to hold the lead because they're taking these bad shots. They're not taking quality shots down the stretch. They're forcing shots that allowed New York to just get all these extra possessions to allow them to just chip away in this lead. And that's where, the Spurs really just fell apart. You look at them, they were just flat out missing shots. And you can't go from breaking records in the first half, by hitting 14 threes to, just disappearing and shooting, 17% in the second half. That's not winning basketball. There's no way you're going to beat a team as good as the Knicks. There's no way you're going to beat any team in the NBA shooting like that. So, that inexperience really kicked in for the Spurs, going down, forcing shots early in the shot clock. And when you're playing with the lead, when you're playing against a team as good as New York, you're going to have to understand that. You're going to have to, go deeper into the shot clock, take better possessions, get better shots. And I think the result would have been a lot different for San Antonio had they have done that. You look at those key moments down the stretch. They're trying to ride De'Aaron Fox, and clearly De'Aaron Fox was not the guy. I mean, he was shooting tour dates in that elimination game in that winner go home. And, Mitch Johnson, that's also on Mitch Johnson too, that inexperience from Mitch Johnson at that stage, not calling a timeout, not making a personnel change. So it's all these little things, you look at them and yeah, they're a young team, but all of that leads to that. So, that experience, don't get me wrong, the Spurs, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be back. Wemby, they are ahead of schedule. This is a young team. They're looking to bring most of their guys, if not all of them, and maybe add a few more better guys in free agency. So this is a Spurs team that is way ahead of schedule. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be back, but you look at the way Victor Wembanyama played that series, one thing I would love to see more out of him, and don't get me wrong, he was getting his. He was feasting offensively, but I would love to see Victor Wembanyama work a little bit more out of the low post, because he is unguardable with that length, with that wingspan. And, don't get me wrong, he can shoot the hell out of a mid-range jumper. He can space the floor from three, but guys, if he just posted up a little bit more and was able to collapse the defense, because the defense is going to come. There's no way one person can solo cover him when he's that low in the post, a couple feet away from the cup. So when defenses start to send help, that's when Wemby's got to dish it out, which he can. We know he's a skilled passing big. So my thing is, like, Wemby, you got to get in the post a little bit more and, create a little bit more for your teammates. Mind you, teammates got to knock down the shots, but Wemby's got to do his thing. I think in this offseason, that's going to be a big leap for Wemby in his game, is just understanding that playing out of the post, you don't always have to be the one scoring the ball. And I think he's fine with that. Like I said, he's shown flashes of him being able to dish the rock out, but I think he needs to play more out of that low post and get a little bit more comfortable dishing out of that low post. But like I said, lots of kudos to this Spurs team. They are way ahead of schedule, and I expect them to be back. Wemby, he has done nothing but improve every year he's been in the league, and I mean, this is his league, so no doubt in my mind that Wemby is going to go ahead and get him one. But let's move on to our next topic, the purple and gold, Austin Reeves. Man, you get the bag and fumble it. I get the bag and flip it and tumble it. Cue the Migos, man. Austin Reeves is here to stay in the purple and gold. And guys, this was a hot ticket, so the Lakers, man, they had to act absolutely fast before these other teams even got the chance. We had Detroit in the mix. We had just about every other contender in the mix. So, guys, they had to snag Austin Reeves. 4 years, $185 million. Man, 4 years, $185 million for a guy who wasn't even drafted. This is going to make him the highest paid undrafted player in NBA history, man. But shout out to Austin Reeves. I mean, this was a big box check for the Lakers. You look at them gearing up to build around this duo. This is something that they absolutely had to do with all the attention that Reeves was getting in. A lot of speculation about this duo. You look at them offensively, and, they check all the boxes. But I think, this is a duo that raises a lot of questions defensively. You look at them, they can score offensively. Luka, he's coming off of leading the league in points, averaging 33 a game. Austin Reeves is coming off of a career year averaging 23 a game. But, a lot of eyes are going to be on their defense. This is a duo that hasn't proven much defensively. This is a duo that opposing teams like to attack. They like to, call an ISO and switch onto a lot. So they're going to have to prove themselves a little bit defensively, or Rob Pelinka is going to have to go out and target those guys, which he's doing a pretty good job of, getting guys like Colin Sexton around him. Walker Kessler was a big trade. But, losing guys like Rui Hachimura, losing guys like Marcus Smart is a big loss, because those were the guys who were helping on the perimeter, masking a little bit of Luka, masking a little bit of AR. And, now that you don't have those guys, Rob Pelinka is going to have to get a little bit creative to fill that hole defensively, because we know Austin and we know Luka can carry the load offensively, but it's all going to come back to depth for the Lakers. You look at these teams in the West who made deep runs, the Thunder, the Spurs, they all had guys on the bench who were stepping up, who were producing, and right now the Lakers are going to have to step up and catch up, because everyone in the West is moving forward, and the Lakers are kind of going all in on these picks and all in on these free agents, and they're going to have to show some results. So, those two guys, they're big key pieces. Rob Pelinka is showing that he is going to, build around him by any means, but they're going to have to produce, and they're going to have to show a little bit of improvement defensively, because offense, no question there. We know those guys are going to get theirs. But defensively, a lot of Laker fans, a lot of people are scratching their heads like, okay, what are we going to do? So, as, free agency continues, as the offseason continues, Rob Pelinka is going to be under a microscope trying to figure out how to build this team around, LeBron being gone, because it is the Luka show. It is the AR show now. So, no LeBron, you're going to have to figure something out, bring somebody in and fill that hole defensively. But, carrying on to my next point, LeBron's gone. And, guys, I just want to pose the question, Was LeBron underappreciated by Laker Nation? And guys, I was seeing on social media, the day he announced that he wasn't going to come back with the Lakers, people were like, oh, thank God, I can finally watch Laker basketball. Some people were like, oh, no, it's not going to be the same. And guys, I got to say, I'm with those Laker fans, guys. This is a man who was underappreciated with the Lakers. Let's backtrack a little bit, before LeBron got here. The Lakers didn't win more than 35 games in the time before LeBron got here. They didn't sniff the playoffs once. I mean, guys, it is ridiculous. The fact that people want to call LeBron's tenure with the Lakers a failure is just, it blows my mind. His stint with the Lakers was identically as successful as Jokic's career with the Nuggets. It was identical to Giannis's career with the Bucks, SGA's with the Thunder. All those teams, they won one title, and they made one conference finals. And mind you, this guy was past his prime. So if that's a failure, then, all those must be failures too. So let's be real. Let's all these Laker fans stop trying to say that, oh, the Lakers are back. Because if LeBron never came to the Lakers, they would have never been back in the first place. He brought the star power back to LA. He made guys like Luka want to sign with him. And guys, the Lakers were a lottery team. So 1 ring in 8 years, guys, you got to give him his flowers. That number 23, that number 6, that's going in the rafters at crypto, man. Statue, I'm not too sure of, but guys, this guy is a Laker legend. He brought back the franchise. And guys, you can love Kobe and you can love LeBron. You can do both. Just appreciate what LeBron did for the franchise. That's all I got to say about LeBron. But you Laker fans, all you Laker fans, you guys, you got to understand what LeBron did for the franchise. You got to really take those Kobe lenses off and just really look at where the Lakers were and where they are now. And I'm excited to see how they are post-Bron. I really am. With Luka and AR, I think, they're in good hands for the most part. I think they can still make some noise in the West. I'm not saying that LeBron was the entire team by any means. But, this is going to be huge. And, LeBron did a lot, and I think a lot of holes are going to start to be exposed to see, okay, I wish we had LeBron James. Oh, man, I wish LeBron James was here to make that pass. But only time will tell. But that's all I got to say about LeBron. Guys, let's move on to the next topic. There is a new Twin Cities tandem, guys. This is an absolutely exciting move by the Timberwolves. And if I'm being honest, completely unexpected. LaMelo Ball is coming off of his best season. He is coming off one of his best seasons in the NBA, actually, playing 72 games, which was his most since 2022. He averaged 20 points, 4 boards, 7 assists, shooting 36% on 10.3 three-point attempts per game. So this is a guy who's going to come in, and he is going to completely reshape that offense. He finished 9th in the league in assists, so this is a guy who will elevate any offense he is a part of. With the Hornets, their offensive rating was a 125 with him on the court, with 112 when he sat. So like I said, he is somebody who, when he is on the floor, he is just going to make everybody better. And, the Wolves really took a big gamble with him, trading for him and, bringing him on the squad, because this is a guy who's had his fair share of injuries. He has health risks, but, while he did play a lot last year, Minnesota is excited to have a guy like LaMelo. This is a team who was yearning for a true point guard. They had one in Mike Conley, but, he's been on a little bit of a decline. So the fact that they can have a primary ball handler, with Randall, with Mike Conley declining, because Julius Randle was, the only player who averaged at least 10 points created off assists per game for the entire squad of the Timberwolves. So with him being gone, that offense is going to take a huge dip. So bringing in LaMelo Ball, that's an instant patch, instant Band-Aid. And, really who I think is going to benefit the most is Anthony Edwards. I am expecting Anthony Edwards to have a career year this year playing alongside LaMelo, because, if you look at the role that Ant's going to take having that true point guard in LaMelo, it's going to allow him to play off the ball way more. And, you look at last season's stats, Anthony Edwards, he took 139 catch and shoot threes, and he was an absurd lights out 49% green on those, which was the best in the NBA. And mind you, those only made up 27% of his total threes taken. So over 70% of his threes were classified as pull-up threes. And, the number was way higher his rookie year on those catch and shoot threes. So, like I said, that decline in Mike Conley forced him to take a little bit more of an on-ball role and shoot those pull-up threes more. But we know Ant Edwards is way comfy shooting those catch-and-shoot threes. And I think with LaMelo being back, with the injury to Dante DiVincenzo, I think that's going to be huge for Ant Edwards to kind of, show a little bit more of that post-up, that spot-up sniper role, and kind of play a little bit like Dante DiVincenzo. But we know Ant is in a league of his own. But I think Ant is really, really going to benefit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ant's averaging a 30-nug next season, because he is just that skilled. He was not far from it. He was averaging 27 last year. So I think Ant is going to take a huge, huge, huge leap in his game. And it's all going to be because of LaMelo Ball, because those are two skilled scorers. They're two skilled passers. So, a lot of defenses are going to have to pick their poison, who they want to send the double to. So Ant's going to feast. So I'm calling it. Ant's averaging that 30 nug. And, it's going to be fun watching those two guys get after it, because they are two of the most exciting players in the league. They got a lot of personality. They're great guys. So I'm just excited to see how it all plays out in Minnesota. Ant and Melo, man, it's the new show over there in the Twin Cities. But speaking of new shows, Greek Freak to the 305, man, off rip. Wow, the Heat really went all in. Pat Riley doing his big one over there for Giannis and Bobby Portis. Let's not forget Bobby Portis, but mostly Giannis. But, wow, the first thing that I think of when I hear this team is holy defense. Wow, suffocating defense. And, you look at Giannis, you look at Bam Adebayo, and it's dang, it's like prison. They're going to put some guys in prison and give teams some real headaches defensively. And the second thing that comes to my mind is, okay, who's going to score the basketball? Because you look at this new roster, one of the areas immediately where they're going to thrive, I think, is transition offense. Grab and go with Bam and Giannis. These are two guys who are averaging double-digit boards a game, and they were two of the best outlet passers in the entire NBA. So I think their transition game is going to be absolutely lethal, and that's where Miami is going to have to get after guys. That's where they're going to have to be their best, is in the grab and go, because as soon as they get into that half-court offense, I think that's where they're going to become a little bit more stagnant. They're not going to have too many primary ball handlers to go out and facilitate things. So I think, in that transition is where they're really going to have to thrive. They're going to need their other guys. They're going to need Wiggins. They're going to need Hardaway Jr. to step up. And, you look at Wiggins, he gave you about 15 points a game, almost 5 boards, and he shot a good about 41% from 3. So this is a guy who they're going to lean on a lot in transition offensively to be that spot-up guy. And not to mention, Wiggins is a little bit of a defensive menace too, so he fits in perfectly with that Heat defensive identity that they're trying to build over there. So I'm excited to see him and how Giannis elevates Wiggins a little bit, but I still think that primary playmaker role is up for grabs. We know Giannis could dish it out, but how good is Giannis going to be in that half-court offense if he's not, dishing things out in transition? And, looking at Giannis, there's going to be a lot of eyes on him, and we'll see, like I said, who's going to carry that load offensively. We know he can dish the rock out, but are his assist numbers going to rise now that he's in Miami, now that he probably is going to be a little bit more of a primary ball handler, even playing in that power forward position? So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of eyes on Giannis, but, the Heat, they really, really went all in on Giannis. It's a win now. They lost a lot of their bench. They traded a lot of their pieces. So I'm excited to see how this plays out for them. But Giannis, it was time for a little change of scenery. Had to get out of Milwaukee and go to the 305. So we'll see how that plays out for the Greek Freak. This guy's an MVP. Bam's an All-NBA player. This is going to be a good duo. So defensively, we know they're going to get it done. We'll see how they do offensively. But lastly, guys, sticking in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics, man, what are we doing? Trading away a finals MVP to a team who just bounced you in the first round. Are we serious? All due respect, this is not Paul George from 2017, man. We're talking about Podcast P, 36-year-old for a 29-year-old who literally just proved that he can be the best player on the floor on a championship team, mind you. 26-5, top 10 in MVP voting. What are we doing? If you're the Celtics, what do you value as a franchise? This is the most complete player you can ask for. And, you had a duo in him and Tatum that went to multiple conference finals. They won a chip. They built chemistry, from the ground up. And this just, this whole thing with the Celtics front office, this just feels like a whole little messy breakup. There's got to be some more to the picture that they're not telling us, because this just feels messy. And, especially when you consider who held it down for the Celtics? Like when Tatum was injured for most of the season, it was Jaylen Brown driving the boat. He was holding them down. He was keeping them in the mix in the East. And, as if he needed more of a reason, as if he needed to give more of a reason to the organization to say, hey, keep me here. I want to be a Celtic for life. What did they do? They dished him out to Philly, man. Like, what? He stepped up. He carrying the scoring load. And, yeah, the reward is, hey, like, we're not going to extend you. We're going to dish you off to a team who beat us. So, I mean, if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm taking that personally. And I'm, okay, they bounced us in the first round. I'm going to take pleasure. I hope I get the Celtics in the first round. I hope I get to play against them. And I hope I get to show them what they were missing out on. So, I'm super excited for Jaylen Brown to sort of enter that little villain arc because he's an exceptional ball player. So, when he gets in his bag, when he gets a little mad, he plays with a little bit of an attitude, it's a wrap. So I'm really hoping, I'm excited. I mean, my calendar's marked for the first time he plays the Celtics this season. And, when you look at the Celtics, that whole on-court dynamic changes. You have other players on the team, they start to question themselves. You're like, dang, a finals MVP just got traded. He's been on the roster for years. How expendable am I? What's next for me? Are they just going to dish me off too? Like, that's how you start to lose trust in an organization. So, I mean, I think the Celtics, they just got some bigger fish to fry. And, you lose really that dynamic duo ability of him and Tatum. Brown was your downhill scorer. He was your physical wing. He can get you 30 a night, and, you're replacing that with the Timu version of him with Paul George, man. Like, what are we doing, Boston? So, I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see how this plays up. I think it might blow up in Boston's face. We've seen Paul George go to places and it hasn't really panned out for him. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm wishing all the best for PG, but I'm not sure what the Celtics were thinking, trading away Jaylen Brown for Paul George. But, guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit of World Cup action, so drop in the comments what you guys want to see, what sort of topics you guys want me to bring up. Drop a comment who you guys got winning the World Cup and what you guys think of this NBA free agency. But that's going to do it for this episode. Drop a like, tell a friend to tell a friend, man. It's a What's the Word takeover this summer. I'm Sam Casillas. Take care, guys.